lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself.
Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is chapter 2 of my The Last of Us 2 criticism and analysis series, focusing on the game's protagonist Joel Miller's fate and legacy. If you are not familiar with this franchise and in need of a brief story recap, please hop over to the part 1 of this series titled LGBTQ vs. Bigot Sandwich. Thanks. Due to the length issue, I have split this chapter into 2 videos. In the first video, we took a look at the validation of Joel's fate and what this ultimate involuntary prize meant to Joel the hero from the first game and us the backseat heroes. In this second video, I will be addressing some fan criticism, such as character inconsistency and subversion, and will be making a case on how Naughty Dog has honored Joel. Right, let's dive into the good stuff. Spoiler warning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Some players have stated their main beef is not about his fate, but with his character inconsistency, in that they don't believe Joel will go to someone's hideout, or tell others his name, or be so careless with a group of strangers, and therefore Naughty Dog has ruined Joel's character per se. I find such reasoning borderline on head in sand denial. How the enemy got close to Joel was very much self-explained in the game. 1. The Last of Us 2 Joel has been living a relatively comfortable, secure, and most importantly, civilized life in the Jackson community. He was not the same as the Last of Us 1 survival mode Joel, living solely on nervous edge. Growing old and living in comfort could dull one's alert level and paranoia instinct.
Coffee.
Where'd you get that?
Those people that came through last week.
Oh.
A little embarrassed as to what I had to trade to get it, but it's not bad.
2. Joel is no longer the reckless killing machine in his rolling days. For example, he traded with a group of passerbys for coffee with something embarrassing, instead of just straight up shooting for it, or robbing blind, didn't he? 3. It was indicated by the Lookout Journal and conversations exchanged between Ellie and Dinah that Jackson community has a humanistic policy of being friendly toward passerbys and straight visitors, as opposed to shoot on sight. As members of this said community and in close relation with the community leader Maria, it is natural that Joel and Tommy respected and implemented such friendly approach. 4. Upon hearing the zombie chaos and gunshots, for all they know, it could be one of the Jackson natives under the attack, since several teams of patrols were out on that day, including Ellie. So it is reasonable that the Miller brothers would come to the rescue just in case it was one of them own in trouble.
Hey, I'm Tommy. That's Joel. What's your name?
Abby.
Abby, are you okay?
That ain't gonna hold. We gotta go back.
We ain't outrun them all the way to Jackson. We need to barricade that door.
Tommy, we cannot stay here.
The horses ain't making it all
No,
that
my
way.
My friends are at a mansion just north of here. It's fenced in. We have the whole perimeter secure.
Subaltern, please. I can work.
5. It was Tommy, not Joel, who introduced themselves to Abby first when there were just 3 of them at the lookout. 6. Joel, Tommy, and Abby were under intense attack by a large herd of zombies. As Tommy stated himself, we can't outrun them all the way to Jackson, so such a route clearly was not optional. 7. And even if it was, I don't see why it would be a smart move for them to want to run back to Jackson, effectively leading the herd there and risking his own community's safety, when Abby just provided them a safer option by leading the herd to somewhere further away from the establishment and can be reached with one non-stop horse ride. 8. It wasn't like Abby invited him to go to some mysterious secret basement they never heard of. The Baldwin Mansion is a place the brothers know about and therefore gave them a false sense of security. 9. Joe and Tommy just saved Abby, and her friends in turn just saved them. On the surface level, there is no reason for them to suspect why this friendly encounter should go awry.
I'm Mel, by the way.
Tommy, this is my brother.
Joe.
Ken. In the mansion, Mel introduced herself first and Jill responded out of courtesy. Besides, there was no point hiding it when Tommy already told Abby. Even so, Joe only introduced himself on the briefest term, not even his full name, simply Joe. It wasn't like he went the extra mile to sell himself out. Hi, I'm Joe Miller, XX years old, a former smuggler from Austin, doombringer of fireflies, guardian of Ellie the Brickmaster. Did he? How would he know such a simple common name could trigger a group of random people he never met before? It wasn't like he had the luxury of 2020 smart-ass hindsight like us players. Therefore, I feel such an out-of-character complaint is a nitpick at best, rooted in hindsight and stemmed from the personal wishful thinking of, if only Joe didn't go there, he would not have died, instead of judging it fairly based on his character and situation at that particular moment in time. While it is understandable some have found the coincidental circumstance of how Abby and Joe ran into each other unlikely, but to cling onto this thread as aha, condemning evidence is quite an overreaction. Newsflash: real life is full of coincidences. Most, if not all fictional stories, films, TV shows, comics rely heavily on coincidences, and narrative-driven video games especially so, in order to string together 20 or 30 hours long of gameplays and stories. The Last of Us 1 itself was no exception, had a fair share of lucks and coincidences throughout. Sure, it was convenient for Abby to run into Joe while he was out on routine patrol, but at least the plausibility is still there. One way or another, her unbreakable determination and the game's subject matter of action and consequence will still ensure she finds him and the debt gets paid. This is another contention point regarding what happened to our beloved hero. Some players feel the entire opening death scene is cheap because it's borderline on emotion manipulation and shock value. In a way, I can agree with that. But guess what?
Somebody, we've just been through hell. Okay, we just need... Shit. Please don't.
Oh no.
Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me.
That is right, my friends. The entire open act in The Last of Us 1 regarding Sarah and her death was also just as manipulative and served as shock value. In fact, that entire act was far worse, because at least Jill was well developed as a full-fledged character by that point, whereas Sarah never had a chance to flesh out hers before being served as a quick catalyst for Jill's story. As cute as Sarah was, she was just a plot device essentially, a typical example of the classic woman in refrigerator trope. Yet, pretty much all of the Last of Us 1 fans and critics embraced and praised the powerfulness of that scene, myself included. If we put aside the personal bias and think about it objectively, Joel's entire character arc and connection with the gamers have relied far heavier on such a manipulative shock scene, and thus benefit from it much more than Abby ever did. For if we remove this dead daughter scene, aka woman in refrigerator trope, from Joel's story, gone will be the vital connecting tissue of instant empathy and relatability that bonded Joel and us the players together right from the start. And gone will be the emotional anguish and psychological torment that came with such tragic loss. Gone will be the sympathetic reason behind his selfish and cold-hearted demeanor, and gone will be the motivational foundation beneath his reluctant interaction with Ellie and the conflicting inner desire that affected the growth of their relationships later on.
Yeah, big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
To put it bluntly, take away this one single emotional manipulative trope and all of its subsequent benefits, Joel's character in The Last of Us 1 would be nothing but another typical self-centered, broody, hard man in an apocalypse setting, likely not much different from the hundreds of other savage a-holes we have slaughtered along the way. At best, he's another Tommy. At worst, he's another Isaac or Robert. A Joel without the tragic loss could still be a decent character, but that version would never be anywhere near as endearing or relatable or iconic as the Joel we know and love today. Think about that, my friends. Therefore, given the comparison, I feel it is a bit of hypocrisy of the universal appreciation for the Sarah's death scene, yet burning hatred for Joel's death scene from some of the very same gamers, despite both scenes served the very same purpose, to deliver a powerful opening, to incite a player's emotion, set up character motivations, and kickstart the main story. The only differences between them are A. We have grown too attached to Joel and henceforth, understandably yet very much unreasonably, not only rooted against anyone that was on the opposite side of him, but also dismissing and hating the entire scene as a whole due to a warped sense of loyalty to a fictional character. B. This is a reverse situation. In this rare occasion, a male is actually being used as woman in refrigerator trope to further a female story instead of the typical expected routine norm, where a female character used as a plot device to motivate the male leads, and this has upset and unnerved some people. Imagine, if you will, if instead of good old fan favorite Joe, Dinner, the sweet new love interest, as the misleading second trailer implied, was the one got brutally ripped from Ellie's life in the exact same way, incited her to go on this vengeful warpath, while Jill stayed alive and acted as a cool support character of some sort. Would so many of the players and detractors have near as much of an instinctive negative backlash at the early loss of Dinner? You are free to draw your own conclusion, but my feeling is absolutely not. So, you see, the death scene itself was not cheap. The cheapness lay in our own die-hard fandom and irrational entitlement over certain fictional characters. Some might say, yes, Naughty Dog should have done that instead. Why sacrifice our beloved Joe instead to subvert the expectation? To which I will say, why not? There are many different ways to create a good story. Sometimes the story is there to serve the characters, but sometimes characters are there to serve a story. Neither is right or wrong, just different approaches. Joe's demise has indeed defied many expectations and shoved him out of the comfort zone, but I would argue it is a logical conclusion rather than a subversion. As I have explained above, in the brutal, unforgiving world of The Last of Us, consider what he has done and the very reason behind Abby's motivation, other than being a fan favorite outside of his natural narrative. There is nothing objectively justifiable to why this particular character deserves a better fate than any of the others that have met an untimely end, or should be excluded from a rightful consequence of his action. In a way, ironically, the emotion manipulation we so happily embraced in the first game is essentially what caused many of us to actively reject the emotion manipulation of the second game when the table is flipped. Kind of funny if you think about it. I'm undetermined whether this is primarily down to creators done a poor job of transcending the perspective shift, or as players are too deep-rooted in predisposition and narrow-minded expectation to give a fair chance. But either way, I do think it is unfair to simply spit at the entire act as garbage, since Joe's unfortunate death is perfectly logical and reasonable from an in-universe perspective. Finally, I would like to address the many furious fans who felt that dying in such a way is cheap and undignified, and thought it destroys Joe's character. I feel the opposite is true. A happy ever after ending, or even an old guns blazing ending, might be fan-pleasing, but would be the real cheap and easy cop-out for Joe. The way Joe met his end here actually highlighted and complete his character to perfection, because it is through such a final trial we got to see what Joe was truly made of. Let's rewatch this moment.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Joe has done many things in the past, things that were right, wrong, or in between. In the end, when facing the inevitable death, he knew it was his past deed caught up with him, but chose not to find out why. Joe told the would-be killer to say whatever she had to say and get this over with. This simple sentence worked on two levels. On one hand, if this is because of Joe's past misconducts and the killer has a genuine reason to want him dead, there's no point for him to try argue or make excuse for his crime. Joe was ready to pay for his sin by letting her take the justified revenge. Hence his first half sentence of acknowledgement in her rehearsed speech. On the other hand, if this is because of certain past good deeds backfired on him, and the killer wanted to kill him for all the wrong reasons, Joe was too proud to plead with some dumb savages or apologize for doing a good thing. Joe was ready to stand by his good action at all costs, hence his second line of "get this over with." Therefore, arguably, this is the most authentic way for Joe to die. Just like every other misfortunes in life, we do not have a say in when and how the tragedy strikes, but we can choose how to define ourselves when that critical final moments arrive. In the case of Joe, even when faced with certain death, Joe was courageous enough to accept the punishment for his wrongdoings, yet stubborn enough to be unapologetic for the right he has done. It is easy for any character to be cool and badass when luck is on their side, but to remain composed and dignified in the face of ultimate defeat and to take responsibility for one's past sins, this demands tremendous valor and unbreakable resolve. I don't think Joe's character can get more real than this. It was a tragic way to go out, but also the most noble and bravo one on how he handled it. It might have been an involuntary pride, but Joe paid it with dignity and pride. Additionally, from the thematic need of a good creative storytelling, a case can also be made of why Joe's death is absolutely necessary for this story of revenge and forgiveness to truly come alive. Joe's demise is one of this game's greatest strengths, rather than its biggest mistake. However, I will be saving this analysis for part 5, because it will be intimately intertwined with the themes of the game, its deep meaning with the two leading ladies and us, the gamers. There's so much more to be discussed for another time. Lastly, and most importantly, contrary to what haters have said, not only Naughty Dog did not destroy Joe's character with a gratuitous death, rather they also celebrated his life and reaffirmed his legacy by restored Joe to his true self, a dedicated, loving father.
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
Unlike in the first game, it was mostly hinted at, but we never got to see the real Joe. There was selfish Joe, savage Joe, murderous Joe, and emotional vacant Joe. Other than a quick glimpse in the beginning of Last of Us 1 when Joe was with his daughter Sarah, and a couple of brief moments of tenderness near the end with Ellie, before it was cut short by his own lies, Joe actually never had the chance to be what he always dreamed to be, and what he truly was at heart beneath the cold exterior. A loving father to his treasured baby girl, despite he spent first 3 quarters of the game mourning the loss of that dream, and last quarter fighting to preserve it. It is not until the second game that we got to see Joe has his dream fulfilled. Be a good dad, spending quality time with his unadopted daughter, sing her songs, tell her cheesy dad jokes, cheer her up when she's down, take her out on fun adventures, celebrate her birthday, teach her how to swim, teach her how to play guitar, talk to her about relationships, have heart-to-heart conversations with her, create loving memories that will last her a lifetime. It is a shame that some gamers were so fixated on the superficial badass, aka violent side of Joe, and got so angry such badassery is diminished in The Last of Us 2. But they have forgot that is not the real Joe. That was the deformed, damaged, twisted side of Joe after lost his baby girl, after he turned emotionally detached and unavailable. That Joe wasn't living. He was just surviving on the edge of lonesomeness and misery. It is a pity that we got so obsessed with seeing Survivor Joe kick ass and chew bubblegum, but lost sight of what really matters to Joe. That Joe himself would trade all of that heroic violence and bloodless action within a heartbeat for just one more happy moment with his beloved baby girl. Killing is what Survivor Joe does best. But to love unconditionally, even if it means Ellie hates him for it, this is what Father Joe does best. And Naughty Dog gave him exactly that in Last of Us 2. Furthermore, at the end of the first game, Joe has prevented Ellie from going through the medical experiment. However, although he has prolonged Ellie's physical life, he also took away her purpose in life, with her wasted away inside the negative, murdering limbo ever since. This mistake was repaired at the end of the second game when their last bittersweet memory together eventually helped Ellie break free of the vengeance cycle. In the words of The Last of Us, it was extremely easy to take someone's life. It was also relatively easy to save someone's life. But what was monumentally difficult, or even impossible, was how to save a person's broken soul. This is exactly what Joe has achieved in the second game, through a combination of his love, dedication, and sacrifice. Even from beyond the curtain of death, he was the vital inspiration for Ellie's moment of transformative catharsis, and saved her from the hellish cycle of hatred, guilt, and self-destruction. This is Joe's ultimate redemption and his true legacy. Therefore, Naughty Dog did not destroy Joe's character. Quite the contrary, they allowed Joe's character to evolve and mature gracefully, from the worst version of himself in the first game to the best version of himself in the second game. Naughty Dog let Joe make amends for his past sins and mistakes, and restored Joe's legacy from a selfish, joyless, broken-hearted hard man killing to survive, to a selfless, tender, loving father doing whatever he could in the little time he had for the one he loves. In the part 2, Joe Miller got to live his life with unconditional love and devotion, and faced his death with unapologetic pride and dignity. For me, this is the utmost respect Naughty Dog could have, worthy of the real Joe. I hope you find my analysis and character breakdown helpful. In the next video, we will be exploring Ellie's character, discuss her psychological journey, and why she ultimately chose to stop living a wasted life by making a meaningful choice of her own. Before I sign off, even if you don't agree with me 100%, if you enjoyed my videos and found value in what I had to say, please like, share, and hit subscribe. Many thanks for watching.
I do okay.
Are you fucking kidding me?
You're welcome, kiddo.